It's the Occupy Fantasy DFS podcast.
That's
How's
different than
that
the other
sound?
one. That was.
Yeah, yeah.
I like it. I like this one better. I think. I like that
Thank you. I
intro.
was in honors course in fifth grade, and
You can tell.
um, I think I should put that on my LinkedIn.
Yeah, I mean, employers value diversity in your outside activity, so you should.
And also, like the shit you did in fifth grade. It's like, I had it made when I was in fifth grade.
This guy's
Back
been
in the day.
hustling since fifth grade, so I
Yup,
get it.
there you go. All right, anyway, it's the DFS version of the Occupy Fantasy podcast. It's Walid. I'm here with Brian, and let's run through these betting odds, the largest favorites, largest team totals. Who do we have?
49ers minus 11.5 against the Cardinals. Vikings 10.5 point home favorites against the Broncos. Raiders 10.5 point home favorites against the Bengals. San Francisco spreads it around a lot, whereas Minnesota has a concentrated running game. Oakland has a concentrated passing game. So I think we'll see high ownership, and we'll talk about the high ownership plays while lead. But there may be some value on that San Francisco side.
I think so too. I mean, you look, and we talked about your boy Ross Dwelly in the season long podcast, but I mean, Debo Samuel, 4K on DraftKings. There's guys to be had for sure.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you get access to a high team total and guys who also are playing more because of injuries, pretty good value spot.
As far as the largest implied totals for games, we got the Lions and Cowboys at 51.5 points. We got the Saints and the Bucks at 50 points. The Cardinals and the Falcons and the Panthers at 49.5 points. The Texans and the Ravens at 49, and the aforementioned Raiders and the Bengals at 48.5. So a couple of games that are above that 48-point mark, which I feel like we use as a litmus for, okay, this game has potential to be a shootout. How do you kind of, simplify this?
Yeah, it's interesting this week because normally we struggle to find games after that top tier. Normally it's like maybe one or two 50-pointers, a 49-pointer, and then a drop off. This week we have 5 legit games that we can choose from that can go off. Now Oakland and Cincinnati maybe not, but I think there are options in that game to stack. But all 4 or all 5 of these games, I mean, it wouldn't surprise you to see 60 points put up in the game. So it's also no surprise that a lot of the guys in these games are featured in the highest projected ownership as of Wednesday. So I'm excited about this week. We don't have to think about stacking Jets Giants, or we don't have to think about stacking Dolphins
Thank
Jets,
God.
or whatever it may be. We can stack teams that are in legit spots, and because there are so many that are in these spots, I don't think in high risk contests that 1 or 2 stacks will take up all the ownership.
So let me put you on the spot here. With those 5 games that I mentioned, if you had to pick one to have the highest point total on the slate, who are you taking?
I think Houston and Baltimore. I really am. Yeah.
I think so too. Damn, you just took that. I wanted to make a case for it, but now you got to do it.
Shit, I wasn't ready to make a case for it, but you got to look at, finally an offense that can keep up with the Ravens. Ravens, I know they've been playing inspired on the defensive side of the ball, but you still have a high-powered offense in Houston. So if Houston can protect Watson can make plays downfield and keep pace and force the Ravens to keep pace. And, with 2 quarterbacks that can both run and throw deep, that's just the recipe for an explosive game. And I think the key factor here is whether or not Houston can keep pace. Because if so, this game, I think, will be featured in a lot of winning lineups.
100%, right? Because, I mean, as amazing as Lamar Jackson has been, he's faced a lot of teams that just couldn't keep up. And sometimes that can limit your upside, right? And you're not required to throw the ball 30 plus times in a game. When he has been, he's had opportunity. Like, you look back earlier in the season, he threw the ball 37 times against the Cardinals, which to no one's surprise. And he had over about 33 fantasy points. Now against the Chiefs, another game, up tempo, they're in a shootout. He only ended up with 22 fantasy points, but he did throw the ball 43 times. So plenty of, and he still had 8 carries for 46 and a touch. But if that's the type of game we get, then the upside is through the roof.
Plus, Houston starting Gary and Conley, who Oakland easily got rid of. Now they're also going to start Vernon Hargraves, who was cut by the Bucks. And a reporter asked Bruce Arians today, said, "Hey, was it a tough decision to cut Hargraves, former first-round pick? You got injuries in the secondary." He goes, "No, not at all. Easy decision."
Damn.
So
Damn.
that should tell you all you know about Houston's newest cornerback.
Whew.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sick for him, man. That's fuck that. If any of my former bosses said that about me.
Was it easy to let Walid go? No, didn't think twice about it.
Trash. As soon as we let him go, everything went uphill. Everything was just booming after that. Let's talk about the highest projected ownership this week. We got 3 quarterbacks that look to get the spotlight for different reasons: Drew Brees, Kyle Allen, and Derek Carr.
Brees against the horrific Bucks pass defense. Allen is a cheap option against Atlanta's non-existent secondary. Derek Carr against the Bengals. So I think this makes a lot of sense. But what you'll notice here, we don't see Lamar Jackson. We don't see Deshaun Watson. We don't see Matt Ryan. We don't see Jameis. We don't see either of the quarterbacks in Detroit, Dallas. So this tells me that ownership is going to be spread out this week.
And I mean, the opportunity for Derek Carr, if you had to guess what Derek Carr's, so we haven't seen ownership projections up to date yet, but if you had to guess what, at his 6.1K price, what his ownership will be against the Bengals at home off a 10-day rest, what are you expecting?
Again, because there's so many options, in high risk contests, probably 12 to 15%, maybe. I don't know, man. There are a lot of options. I could see all these guys coming in at under 10%.
And that's the edge to kind of have in high risk contests. And running backs, Dalvin Cook, shocker. No. Christian McCaffrey.
Nope.
Alvin Kamara. Josh Jacobs, Leonard Fournette. We're loaded. We have a lot of guys in favorable positions that we know are going to get volume, that we know have the skill and the talent, and are also involved in the receiving game. Is this like the best week for running backs?
This is super solid. This is, as we say every week, this group, the high-owned running back group, play these guys, all contest types. No need to get cute. I mean, these guys are in great situations. They can play regardless of how the game plays out. I mean, these guys are in good spots and high-owned for a reason. So lock them up, load them up.
So out of those 5 guys, considering ownership, considering upside, if you had to only use 2 in your higher risk contest, which 2 are you taking?
Probably not Fournette, just because apparently can't score touchdowns regardless. Regression be damned. Kamara still maybe not because of potential split workload with Latavius. I'll go McCaffrey and Dalvin and then figure out the rest.
I think Leonard Fournette is going to score 2 touchdowns this week.
I hope you're right. I mean, he's due for 6 per game. So maybe, the red zone offense has to get better with Nick Foles back in the mix. So maybe you're right.
Can we make a bet?
Yeah, let's do it.
What would you be willing to do if Leonard Fournette scored 2 touchdowns?
Man, I'll be probably winning money on Sunday if that happens. So
let's do it. Let's do it for the folks here at home. Let's give away some Occupy Fantasy memberships. If Leonard scores 2 touchdowns, how about we give away 3?
Yeah, if Leonard Fournette scores 2 touchdowns, leave a review for us in iTunes or wherever you leave reviews. Let us know that you left a review, and we'll pick three members at random to get the free membership for Occupy. I like it. Game
on. Let's do it. Do it for the people, Leonard. You heard this shit. You better score when you're at the 1.
Dude, fantasy. I mean, football players don't do it for the people. Chris Godwin is donating every time he makes a catch to save a dog. Didn't get as many catches as we'd hoped. So clearly, James is not playing for the people. We'll see if Fournette can do it.
I think he will. I mean, dogs, Occupy membership, somewhere in the same tier of importance.
Balance it out.
Just kidding. We love dogs here, so come on, James, give Godwin the ball, please. So at receiver, no shock, we see Michael Thomas up there, Julio Jones, DeAndre Hopkins. You ever heard of those 3?
Not until you just named them, so pretty interesting.
And then some guys you don't expect here often, but given context, not too shocking. DJ Moore, Curtis Samuel, Calvin Ridley, and Debo Samuel.
Yeah, the rare Samuel stack could be a nice little option. We get the high owned guys or the high price guys with Thomas, Julio, and Hopkins, and then we see these guys in these better matchups. Moore and Samuel in the shootout with Atlanta, Calvin Ridley against Carolina in a potential shootout, and then Debo, one of the highest team totals on the slate, with potentially Emmanuel Sanders missing. So lots of guys here to like. I don't. I was still surprised about lead last week that Michael Thomas ended up at like 45% ownership in GPPs.
It's insane. And I mean, let's take a second and just look at his price on DraftKings, because have we ever seen a receiver worth this much?
Yeah, Antonio Brown was 10K back in the
Oof.
Pittsburgh days, but this is right next to it. So
9.9. They don't want to give him that 10K yet, but I have a feeling if he has one more blow up spot here, then it's going to be that or bust. So, no, like you said, I mean, the Panthers, very favorable matchup. I think folks are going to be looking to kind of do the reverse stack that way with some of the Falcons receivers. DeAndre Hopkins, he's still on pace for a ridiculous year as far as receptions, and I mean, you're looking at a potential shootout and plenty of opportunities to kind of find ways to use these guys without kind of jeopardizing your leverage in high risk contests.
totally agree. And now moving on to tight ends, I also want to get your opinion on a situation. Completely catching you off guard here. Real quick to start. So Waller, Olsen, Ertz, we think are the top 3 projected tight ends this week as of Wednesday. Waller and Olsen, 2 high total games. Ertz, I don't know about. Maybe they shadow him with Stephon Gilmore. We'll see how that goes against New England. But we talked about it last night on our Twitch stream. Moose and I did. We were reviewing 150 max lineups. There's a guy, username Laz Gets Fit. This guy,
This guy's the GOAT.
dude, he's the GOAT. He's actually the GOAT. This guy has, he's won 6 figures multiple times now over the last few years in DFS contests. This past week, he used 29 different tight ends in his 150 millionaire lineups. Can you make sense of this? Do you have any ideas of what this is about, how this is working for this guy?
I mean, the only thing I can say is that if you're doing something that no one else is doing, you might have an edge.
That's
That's
true.
my only logic, right? Is no one else is going to the 20. I couldn't even tell you who the 29th ranked tight end in the Occupy model is.
We
And
don't
that's
have
probably a good
29. We
thing.
don't have 29 ranked. I promise you, we don't.
Whew. So, I mean, I'm not saying that his method shouldn't be applied, but there's always a joker in society. I think that's this guy, and it works for him. So, I mean, it's impressive. He is literally doing what no one else does, and he's found a way to get an edge out of it.
For those of you who don't know, go back and watch our Twitch stream. It's up here on YouTube, the replay. It's also twitch.tv/Occupy Fantasy. This guy finished top 5 in the Millionaire Maker this week, and his lineup featured Patrick Mahomes against Tennessee's defense in the same lineup. And this guy used like 160 players in his 150 lineups. We have a suspicion to what he's doing. I'm not going to say it in public yet. We're doing some research on the back end, but maybe this time next week, Walid, we'll talk about this guy's insane strategy.
And for context, I'm on Fantasy Pros right now, and let's see who the 29th ranked tight end is. It's Blake Jarwin.
Laz Gets Fit is all over him.
It's literally the backup tight end to Jason Witten. So, let that sink in. I mean, speaking of these guys, one question here is Darren Waller. He's so impressive. His whole story is unreal, but the last 2 weeks, he's only had 7 targets. In the last 3 weeks, he's only had 7 total catches. Is this one of these situations where now is the time to get him for his blow-up spot against the Bengals? Or, I mean, do you think this is just an inevitable regression from his, consistently 8+ targets a game output?
Yeah, tough game script, I think, for him. I know they're projected highly, but if they get out and they're running the ball a ton, the volume hasn't been there in a variety of game scripts. If I'm stacking that game, I'd use him. But if
you have to, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you're stacking the Raiders, of course Tyrell Williams is like the big play guy, but who would be? You got to go Darren Waller, right? If you're going with Carr in a high risk.
Yeah, but if I'm not stacking, I don't know if I'd use him. Like you said, the volume just hasn't been there.
So could you justify stacking Derek Carr, Tyrell Williams, and no one else in a high risk contest?
I think so. Yeah, especially if you're playing 100-player leagues on FanDuel, like you could totally.
Well, I'm talking about like high risk where you got to beat, let's say, 3,000 people to finish in the top, 10, 12%.
Man, I don't know.
It's counterintuitive.
It is, and we've seen it work. So I don't think it's, if you like the rest of your lineup, it's definitely possible. It's not something I would do, but as we've seen with Laz Gets Fit, doesn't matter what I would do. You still win with different strategies. So
moving on to defenses, 4 defenses that should be pretty popular: the Niners, the Vikings, and then the Jets and the Skins against each other in the toilet bowl.
Yeah, so 49ers and Vikings mostly because they're massive favorites, but the Jets and Skins is because they're so cheap. So, in creating your lineups the last couple of weeks, Walid, they've lowered the prices of some of these cheaper defenses. Have you been using them? Have you been dropping down to some of these cheaper guys?
I have, but not too far down. I mean, it's interesting usually when you get to the bottom of the bottom, you're looking at bad defenses going up against really good teams. Yeah. But I mean, you have a scenario here where it might be a bad defense going against a really bad team. So
yeah.
That's when you want to use it, right? If you're ever going to really, really pay down, why not here?
That's true. I think that you've said it perfectly. Yeah.
I said it stupidly but perfectly. A 38.5 point implied total. It's not even close as far as the ugliest game of the week goes.
No, I mean, it's not like you're playing the Bengals against the Ravens last week or Cardinals against the 49ers this week, who are even cheaper than those guys.
So I know this could turn into like a 20-minute tangent, but I feel like both of us are hungry. I haven't eaten dinner. Have you eaten dinner yet?
I did, actually. I was waiting for you to record this, and I did eat, so.
Well done. We have a lot of sneaky stacks to talk about. So many good ones. There are legit 5 options this week. Make it sneaky for them.
All right, so I have to avoid those 5 ones that we talked about earlier. Is that what you're saying?
I mean, it's what I'm implying. I'm not saying it, but it's kind of implied.
All right. Shit, this is tough. I wasn't prepared for this. I will say, is Chiefs and Chargers sneaky? Is that sneaky at all? They're not in these top 5. So I'll say oh wait, they play on Monday night in Mexico City, so I can't even use them.
Yep, you fucked it up. Not me.
All right.
I got one for you.
Let's please save me.
Patriots and the Eagles.
Okay, tell me why.
So number one, we all know what the Patriots defense has done from a fantasy perspective, and as great of a ride as it's been, part of you wonders how sustainable it's going to be, right? And I mean, they're off a bye week, and they just lost, so you can imagine they'll be prepared. But with that said, I mean, you look at guys like Nelson Aguilar for 4.8, especially if Zach Ertz is getting shadowed by Gilmore. Nelson Aguilar, who, I mean, the snap count's been there, right? The targets have been there. The production has been non-existent. But yeah, he had games earlier in the season where he put up 100 and a touch. And I mean, I'm sure the Patriots aren't game planning to take him out, right? And then on the other end, I mean, I'm not saying it's a game that you got to go crazy with, but I see a lot of cheap guys that can help you save some money. I'm talking about Mohamed Sanu. I'm talking about maybe James White out there, who he had 2 catches the week before. But, I mean, this is a guy that we're expecting to get 7, 8, 9 receptions a game.
I like Alshon Jeffrey from this game, too. I know he didn't practice today, but if he is available – he just missed our underperforming wide receivers list, so I kind of like this game too. I think a lot of the Eagles guys are priced down because of the Patriots defense in the DraftKings pricing algorithm.
And I mean, Aguilar, can you make a case for Aguilar at 4K? I mean, you're telling me he can't have a 100-yard and a touchdown game?
I don't know. I thought it was possible. He had a chance against Atlanta for a lot of money from me and could not do it. So a little biased on that. I don't think so.
Maybe I was digging deep, but
Yeah.
we'll see. We're gonna hey, if I'm right, we're gonna revisit this. If Nelson, regardless of whether I play him or not, if Nelson Aguilar pops off, believe I'm coming in here next week, beating my chest.
Please do. Please no. Once Fournette scores twice and Aguilar scores twice, oh man, we're gonna need a new co-host.
That is what I'm building my high risk contest around: Nelson Aguilar, Leonard Fournette.
Damn. Yeah, I'm not gonna enter your contest because that's a winner.
You dig? So let's talk about underperforming receivers. You did mention Alshon Jeffrey, but there are a number of guys that keep popping up on those lists, including my boy Curtis Samuel.
Yeah, so here, I guess, Walid, let's bring some context to Curtis Samuel. Not to get too deep into this, but the underperforming receiver list looks at guys who have had a ton of air yards, a ton of targets, but their box scores haven't necessarily matched up with their opportunity. So Curtis Samuel is one of the biggest offenders here, but the biggest thing, I looked into it today. Curtis Samuel has.
Oh wait, don't say it yet. Don't say it yet, because for context, I saw an article today I saw a tweet today, a LinkedIn article that I didn't read because
Attaboy.
it pissed me off, and it said Curtis Samuel, is he an efficiency problem, or they were just kind of talking shit on my boy? And I'm like, hold up.
This is what inspired my research, by the way. That specific tweet inspired my research.
You saw that one? Okay, good.
Yeah.
Because that had me hot. I was like, because I've been watching an unnecessary amount of Panthers games this year,
Yep.
and I see Curtis Samuel constantly getting separation and ready for that big play, and Kyle Allen, and no disrespect, you just keep missing my boy.
Well, your eyes do not deceive you, Walid, because out of all the receivers with at least 40 targets this year, only 2 have a lower catchable target percentage than Curtis Samuel. And on Curtis Samuel's 16 deep passes this year, so 20 plus air yards downfield, Kyle Allen has been accurate on 3 of those 16. So that's
why analytics don't matter, because I could have told you that. I saw it with my own eyes when it's 10 a.m. and I'm watching the Panthers play in London against the Bucks, and Curtis Samuel has 2 touchdowns, but I know he could have had 3. That's all you need to know, man. The anecdotal evidence speaks for itself.
This is why we give you such a generous vacation package, and you still allow you to come back on the show, because you have this insight. So you're a valuable member. I mean, to our crew, this is why.
No, but you're right on. I mean, it's one of these weird anomalies where, you look at the opportunity, it's amazing, but he consistently. I mean, look, last week 4 catches, the week before 3, then 4, 3, 3. When is he going to have that 7, 8 catch game for 150 yards? He's 2 good throws away.
Bro, he can go for 120 and 2 at any time.
But that doesn't seem to be news to folks that really follow this stuff closely, right?
Right. I mean, we saw him on the highest projected owned receiver list, so.
Totally. So everyone kind of knows that plays DFS what's good, but name some guys that people might not know because there isn't a glaring statistic the amount of inaccurate passes thrown.
I think Allen Robinson falls in that category too, right? People know Trubisky can get him the ball, but he's on this list for this week as well. But John Brown, who has been playing pretty decently, but he could have had a lot more bigger games. Auden Tate, who was on this list last week. We talked about him. He was popular. He's going to be 1% owned this week, and he's still here in a much better matchup against the Raiders. Devontae Adams for the Packers. And then a couple guys who just missed. Ebron, Julio Jones, DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, Scary Terry, and then Alshon, as we talked about before. So those are the guys that will make up most of my high-risk lineups. Any thoughts for you?
I'm loving Scary Terry. I mean, he's definitely not cheap, right? And especially given his early season production and just kind of what's expected here. But, I mean, he's in that spot, man. He has, if I had to bet on any receiver this week that's, let's say, under 6K that I feel like has both a high floor and high upside that you can honestly enter like roster in a handful of contests. I'm feeling good about Scary Terry.
I don't think there's any Redskins bias there in your blood anymore. So I tend to believe you on this one. So I think Scary Terry is definitely playing against that Jets defense. I like DJ more than most of this group. He still hasn't scored a touchdown since I can't remember when. I think it was against the Cardinals. Also, don't forget about Odell Beckham. If you listen to this before the Thursday night game, he's due for. We've seen him talk about it in the media. We've seen him get 8 or 9, 10 targets last week. So he's due for a big game too.
I think so. And that's about it here for us. We'll see you guys this weekend. Brian, Moose, you guys know how to hold it down as far as providing the content. Any closing thoughts?
No, we got to figure out what Laz Gets Fit does. That's the number one priority. I don't care about any other.
Can we get him on this podcast? Like
this guy has no online presence. Like all the times he's been winning, people have tried to get in touch with him. They can't. So that's number one focus. We got to get him on the podcast somehow.
Jeez, man, what a legend! I mean, don't you just love DFS for that purpose? Where there are just guys that you'll never meet, you'll never see their face, but their legacy lives on. And I am looking forward to him rostering Blake Jarwin for the win when he gets.
It's gonna happen. He's actually gonna use that guy this week. Like that's not even a joke. It's a real thing. He's gonna use Blake Jarwin.
And hey, Jarwin had 4 targets last week, and you're talking about a guy who can go off any given week. So more power to him. But yeah, that's it for us. We'll catch you guys very soon. As always, I'm Walid for Brian. Catch us at occupyfantasy.com. Much love.